When they updated 5th edition to 5th and a half edition, I remember I made a review of the new monster manual. And one of the big changes between the 2014 monster manual and 2024 monster manual is the lack of certain types of monsters, in particular monsters that are normally player races. So you used to be able to play, or you are now able to play orcs and drow and Duergar straight out of the player's handbook, which in previous 2014 5th edition is something you required Volo's Guide to Monsters to do. But now that they've been migrated to the player's handbook, they left the monster manual. And I remember thinking that, that was just fine. I could use the 2014 monsters. They are compatible between editions. But I also remember kind of missing them because for a long time, that has been kind of one of my favorite types of monsters. My first ever adventure in 5th edition was not a 5th edition adventure. I ran a converted version of Night Below, largely off the back of Matt Colville's recommendation of it. And Night Below is all about fighting Duergar and Drow, and about fighting Koa-Toa and Mind Flayers and Darrow, all of which is here on the cover. This is an AD&D adventure that I had a blast running. It's very hack and slash. I don't know that I can necessarily recommend it, especially if you're a new DM. And the whole conversation around this, when they were making the new monster manual, was that they would update these monsters and they would show up in later books. And sure enough, whenever they did the Forgotten Realms Adventures in Faerun, of which I have the collector's cover here, they did make a new set of stat blocks for the Drow. I'm going to see if I can flip through them here real quick. Just give you a look, because they are indeed in here. Drow, here they are. This is all there is in terms of Drow stat blocks. There are 4 of them, which is more than sort of standard for D&D monster categories. I would like there to be 8 or 12 and thereabouts, but there are 4 in here. And there are absolutely no Duergar, none for Gracklstuck, at least not that I found in my sort of flip through that I was doing just before going live. And I also remember one of the first adventures I played in 5th edition ever. My friend Magnus ran for me. That was Out of the Abyss, and that was all about going to Gracklstugg and being chased by Drow and all of these sort of typical Underdark adventure stuff. And I liked all of it. I think it's sort of iconic adventuring, thing. You go into the Underdark, it's full of monsters and mind flayers, and Demogorgon might show up. So I naturally kind of miss the Drow and the Duergar, and I had just put them in my new campaign. My players have now several times met and fought both Drow and Duergar in the adventure we're playing in 5.5, and the 2014 stat blocks work just fine. Like there's not really a need to make 2024 versions of everything. I talked about that a little bit in my Ravenloft review, but I like making monsters. I like updating things. I like sort of using a springboard and then kind of going off and trying to figure out what I want to do with it. And I've now done multiple sort of packets of monsters on Patreon, the Mystic Monsters tier, where I'll go and say, hey, we're going to do 12 new kobolds, and I think we did like 30 goblinoids and stuff like that, just so that you have a whole, cadre, a whole army that you can use if you want to run an adventure with them. And I thought that'd be exciting if I went to do that for both the Drow and the Duergar, and then I could make a package on Patreon going Drow and Duergar, but also I would be able to figure out what I think about the Drow and the Duergar and what they are like in my setting and how that's probably different than what it's like in the Forgotten Realms. And I wanted to figure it out with you folks, and we could do a little bit of brainstorming, trying to figure out what sort of excites us about the Drow and the Duergar. So, hey everybody, welcome to Mystic Arts. My name is Daði. I'm a professional writer and director, and I've been DMing for a little over 11 years. And I just want to say, welcome to the show. Normally, at the start of these live streams, I sort of do a little intro, and then I catch up with chat and say hi to everybody. And once that's done, we kind of get into the meat of things. So hey everybody, how you doing? Wow, Mergen just immediately comes in with 2 questions. Domain level play, mass combat. How do you do it? I have an answer. It's not a good one. Hang on. Let me I one day, Merchant, I will make my own sort of version of a domain system, but right now all I can say is that I tried making a thing and I went overboard, and I have a spreadsheet that is absolutely bonkers insane. And it looks like this. And I don't recommend you do it. In fact, do literally anything else. But that is what I do. I simulate it down to a granular detail. If you want, there are already modules for 5th edition that do this. Third-party stuff like Kingdoms in Warfare. Cobalt Press also has a Kingdoms thing. I would have a look at that. Second question, naval gameplay. Hex crawl, point crawl. How do you make the life at sea interesting? One day I will go make a supplement about that. I have already sort of half made one for when I last ran a naval campaign. But for now, all I could point you towards is things like Ghosts of Saltmarsh, Void Sea, or Lodestar. Llama Man asks, Drow of Lolth, are your Drow like in the Drist books, or can we pitch things from Warhammer 2? I've sort of been running them almost basically like the Menzoberrands and Drow, but I have been thinking about messing around with it and seeing if I come up with something else. Why is it called Faerun? I actually don't know. I don't think it has anything to do with Fae. I couldn't tell you. Jonathan Frost, thanks for calling this out. I I I think it's sort of fascinating because on one hand I'm like we should update these species so that they are interesting to us in the 21st century. But I also think that cutting them is kind of just brutal because I like playing with monsters and I think monsters are cool. Well, thanks, Llama Man. Yeah, everybody, come join us on Discord. Dark elf like wood elf or astral elf. Yeah, coming from the Underdark. Uh, I think that's probably what it is. I'd sort of imagined that I would end up going with like gray elf or gray dwarf because they exist in monochrome scale. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the Rockseer elves because they, I remember, appeared in Night Below and they were like pale white. Hang on, here's what they looked like. That's the art you get from AD&D for them. But they were like pale white and they had like alabaster skin because they're underground the whole time. There are no drow in Night Below, I don't think. I don't remember, but there are rock seers. And I put them in my setting, and I haven't really delved back into it, but they're like white, and I think, what's his face? L.A. What's this guy's name? This guy. He's like a pale elf, white hair. So what if they're gray elves? What if Ornithon's Underdark elves are just our sort of monochrome? I don't know. That sounds cool. That way you could have them like gray or black or white, but they have no pink undertones. They're in black and white. They see in dark vision anyway, right? Elric. Yeah, this is Elric. So maybe that's what it is. And maybe then the Drow and the Duergar, my version of them, which probably wouldn't be called Drow and Duergar, would be these sort of different takes on that idea. But we might still use the basic sort of idea of what a Drow is, or the basic stat block. Because one thing I'd already done, if I click this button, You can see here the Duergar stat block from 2014. I can also open it up if I go and click here and here and here. This is a Duergar in 2014. And one thing I found incredibly surprising about it is that the action list is actually massive because it has to fit enlarge, which is literally the spell enlarge, like almost verbatim. The only difference is that instead of doing 1d4 extra damage by being large, it doubles damage dice on strength-based attack rolls. So they had to rewrite the spell to include this sort of monster version of enlarge. And because they did that, they had to rewrite invisibility all the way into the stat block as well to say that this invisibility ends, like the spell, when you make an attack, cast a spell, or when you use the enlarge feature. So I took this, I put it into Obsidian, and then I thought, how do I scale this stat block down? It doesn't need to be this big. And while I was doing that, I noticed that Duergar Resilience gives them advantage on saving throws against poison, spells, and illusions, as well as to resist being charmed or paralyzed. So inside this one feature, they have advantage on saves against 5 different things that you just have to remember as a DM. And I think that's so much. That's so many things. And then they've got Sunlight Sensitivity, which has been made even worse in the new edition. In the new edition, 5th and a half edition, it gives you disadvantage on attack rolls and all ability checks, which is kind of funny because that means it's easier to grapple someone if they're easier to grapple a Duergar when you're in sunlight. But maybe that makes sense. I don't know. Pale, Gloom, Murk. Yeah. The Ashen Elves? The Ash Elves? No. Pale Elves. Well, Pale says white to me. Murk Elves, I don't think is bad. Dwemer and Dunmer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, kind of like in Elder Scrolls, there are these sort of related Dark Elf, Dark Dwarf inventor characters. What I really like about Duergar Resilience is the fact that it, specifically against illusions, they have advantage. Now, most illusions are spells, so I don't know that it does that much. Yeah, large resistant list always give me a headache. Yeah, exactly. You got a check mark next to your name. Hello, Dutch 40k guy. So yeah, this sort of large list, I'm like, what? I'm never going to remember this. So I did a version, I sort of tried putting this into 2024 language, and I came up with this, which isn't that much shorter, but I think it is a little bit neater to look at. Number 1, I made the invisibility and enlarge be a bonus action, because that way they actually get to use it. I've been running Drow a lot, and I almost never use their go big or go invisible actions, because they kind of... Why would they do that if they can just hit you? If a Duergar is going to live for about 2 turns, I'd rather just have him hit twice than hit once twice as hard. I don't disagree, Kajitan, but I do like the sunlight sensitivity. So this is the new one, I put on the new sunlight sensitivity. And I just said magic resistance, because once I see magic resistance, I actually don't have to read all of this text. I just know that's what magic resistance does. And then I specifically gave them unimaginative, and I sent this to a friend of mine, and he said, Magnus said, that illusions are often ability checks. So I'm just going to say on D20 tests. Against illusions. So now we have sort of taken the idea of them being unimaginative and illusions not really working on them. We've cranked that up to 11. They just don't work on them because they don't imagine things. That's a part of the Duergar lore, is that like all their buildings are drab and boring and brutalist, and they don't really like creativity. They're all about pragmatism. So just the idea that, hey, illusions don't work on me, I think it's really cool. And then they just have magic resistance, which when I said this to my friend Magnus, he was like, "That's a buff. What are you doing that for?" And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. You have to read Duergar Resilience. They already have resistance to spells. They just called it Duergar Resilience, and then it was such a big list that you didn't really notice. So just putting it on here. And then I kept this bit of blurb here, blah blah blah, while enlarged, to say that when they so in the bonus action it just says casts invisibility or enlarge reduce, enlarge only, requiring no components because they are psionic. They have simple brain magic, kind of like mind flayers and stuff. Yeah, that's right, Kajin. It's because mind flayers broke their brain. I think it could be a cultural thing, but we'll see about that. Any thoughts on how Duergar might find themselves in the sewers of Blackheart? I'm certain there could be crossover between the Underdark and Blackheart. And then, yeah, so here it is as a bonus action. They've just got these two spells. I gave them 3 castings a day of either. So they could either go invisible 3 times a day or enlarge reduce 3 times a day. Now, that is probably a buff on account of they could do it multiple times per combat this way. Because previously it was recharges per short or long rest, but I don't like rest recharges on monsters. I don't think it belongs there. I think it's kind of weird. So this way, I've just got this sort of thing on the bottom here. And now I kind of have a base for what a Duergar is in my world, or at least for this sort of 2024 update that I want to do to them. But I think I got to give them a new name. Somebody just said deep dwarves, and I think that's probably what I'm going with. Will they now not always be enlarged? I think they should. Jalixed. I've read your name countless times, and I don't know how to say it. I think they should always be enlarged, because they are CR1, and if we compare monsters based on how tough they are at specific CR ranges, they kind of should always be enlarged, either or always be invisible. And here's this table that my good friend Anto from Icarus Games made, showing the math behind the new monster manual. And you can see here, a CR1 creature has an average of 25 hit points, AC 13, plus 4 to hit, and 10 damage. If we then go back to our Duergar here, you can see that he has an average of 11 damage while big. So if he's small, he's hitting way under his weight, meaning he should be big. Or he can be invisible and have advantage and have a higher to hit modifier. Which, that might be nice. But honestly, when you're running Duergar, they should be big in order to hit their weight class. Hit the CR1 that they are supposed to be. So at that point, just make enlarge be a bonus action. Make them always be able to do that. Right? Question is, do I just call them deep dwarves? This is a nice table for CRs. Is it on Patreon? It's on Anto's Patreon. I think he also just put it up in his video. Anto from Icarus Games. He's got a video called the math the monster manual doesn't show you. Hang on, I'm gonna go find it. Anto deserves your views. He did the math here. Let's see. Daði looks up a stat block. And here's Anto's video. I've just put it in chat. If you're watching the VOD and you want to see where I get this here table from, first off, you could just screenshot the screen right now and get a low quality version of it, but I recommend you go over to Anto's video and watch how he made this, and he explains what this is and how it works. Hi, Nick Gilby. Yeah, it's been a minute since I streamed. We've been taking it easy. We have been taking it easy. Lamman says, Drow and Duergar feel like slurs in Dwarvish to me. That's wild, because Duergar is just the Icelandic word for dwarf, spelled slightly weirdly. In the Icelandic, it would be Dvergar. Dvergar. This is Duergar. 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 Dvergar. That's all it is. Taking it easy, huh? Yeah. Quiet you. Then I did a similar treatment to the Drow. I created a Drow Surf. I'm probably going to end up having to give a similar sort of evocative name for the basic Duergar eventually. But this is the Drow that I did. It's very similar to the one that currently existed. The only sort of difference I did here that I remember off the top of my head is that I put in like Drow Poison as a bonus action. So they kind of have, in the way that Divine Smite works, Drow now have, instead of it being a thing that they apply to weapons or is always on their crossbow, they can just apply Drow Poison magically, like psionically or something. Like they just do it. Were those Nightfawn hunters from your game not Drow? No, they were Wood Elves. They were all Wood Elves. I will eventually do a Wood Elf one. I could show you. I can show you that Nightfawn. No, actually, it's I'll show it to you, but it's not ready. It's undercooked. Where is it? Loggers County. Wood Elves. Hunter. They can do pass without a trace. They do like a crap ton of force damage. They've got magic, ambush arrows. They're crazy. But I'm going to make my own Wood Elf collection at some point. I'm not there yet. I'm excited about the Drow now. Umbral? Yeah, maybe. I fear I haven't seen Dad's World yet. Not your father. But it's more magic punk, right? No. I wouldn't say so. Do Duergar Drow have different setting than normal? So there is a nation in my world that is kind of like industrialized. As in, instead of being based on Renaissance Europe, it's based on Victorian London. But there's no magic in Renaissance Europe, and the kind of magic that is in D&D is the same whether you're playing the Renaissance Europe version or the industrialized Blackguard, my setting version. The magic is the magic. It is not... it's not like Eberron Hyperrail. They just have a train. Like, it's not steampunk or anything like that. Why did I change Fey ancestry to Elven ancestry? Because it bugged me that Fey didn't get it. It wasn't a thing on all Fey. It's a thing on all elves. So I'm like, I'm gonna change it. There's one nation in my setting that is heavily industrialized, and there are still like a sort of old world that's more kind of like the typical European fantasy, and then there is all kinds of other settings. It is just that the one that I make broadsheets of is industrialized, not magic punk. Different. Yeah. You got it, Leviathan. So, here's what I want to do. I have this one Drow, this basic Drow, and I have this one Duergar. And we need to figure out, A, what are we going to call these Duergar? And what are we going to call these Drow? We're going to come up with a new name for them, and we're going to think up a new lore. And B, we are going to come up with a set of what kind of types of Duergar should there be? What kind of types of monsters should there be? So I'm going to show you. This here is the Sahuagin tribe that we did. And this here is the Kobold pack that we did. And this here is the Lizardfolk cast that we did. And you can see each of them is like, here's the basic one. And this is what CR it is. And then here are all the sort of different words that we stick on the back of the main monster to tell us what types of monsters are there. So if we go back to the kobolds, you can see there's a kobold, like a regular kobold mook. And then there is a kobold trapper, a harrier, a sorcerer, an agitator, a wyvern rider, a scale guard, a dragon speaker, and a hive lord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 9 different kinds of kobolds in here. I want to figure out what are the 9 or 8 or 10 different kinds of drow and different kinds of Duergar. And I think we need to sort of kind of come up with some ideas, but also I think we need to figure out what is the basic premise of elves that live in the cave and dwarves that live in the cave that isn't the drow of Lolth that exists in this book and was invented in the 80s or 90s or whenever, but is our own take on it. And I don't know yet. I haven't gotten that far. I'm still working it out, and I think I'm just going to sort of try and figure that out as I go. New note. Duergar. I don't think we're going to call them Duergar, but I do like the idea that they are unimaginative, broken brains. Maybe that's because of mind flayers, but maybe not. What is Zuzi? Will it be the same weaknesses and strengths of the base D&D species? Yeah, I think they'll be the same as we've sort of put up here. Like, I think we'll still use this kind of layout, but we're gonna use the same basic principles. But when the WotC version goes this way, we're going to go that way and create a different sort of fork of the base principle. That way, if you're a dungeon master, you don't just have Wizard's version and Daði's version, and they are very slightly different. Then you have to go read both to see which one you like. We're going to get a different premise. And that way, once you get the premise, you can then decide, I like the WotC version, or I like the Mystic Arts version. Or you can just use both and have fun. I don't know. People keep suggesting like Twilight or Moonlight and stuff like that. But if they're in the caves, I don't think how they're lit by the sun makes any sense, right? Drudgery is menial labor. Yes. Dwarf, yeah, Duergar. So I like that. I like that. That's why they're going to have the war pick. I don't really like the war pick as their basic weapon. Priest, yep, I like the idea of a priest. So I think my above ground dwarves, who are also underground dwarf, but like my main plain dwarves are gonna have lots of priests. They're all about like word magic, the written word, and it's called onomancy. So I don't know that I want that for the Duergar, actually. I really, I was looking at all the WotC offerings, and many of them just feel fairly standard to me. So you got like a Despot, which is like a warlord, but this one, the Mind Master, this one I think is cool. I don't really actually know what his abilities are, but just the idea of like a dwarf scion I think is really dope. So I think our dwarves are going to be scions, because most of them are just like scary tanks. Shared invisibility, that's neat. Alchemist, because I've seen looking at these things, they tend to go either dwarf uh, scion, which and there are like two or three of those, and but I like that idea. And then there is dwarf tank, and I think I'm gonna do that with my own like dwarves. They're gonna be tanks and priests. I'm gonna write that down. Starkheim dwarves. New note. Tanks and priests. And I don't know if they're Starkheim dwarves. I think I'm gonna call them something else in the end, but this is all. If you're like, I want to see the screen, all I've written down is tanks and priests. So I think our Duergar are they are either the ones who have unlocked the psionics and are, Professor X kind of, or they aren't working. The Unmaker unmade their connection to the word. That's pretty cool. I like that. That's pretty cool. So like, what if they're like empty? There are the ones who have scions, and then there are the ones who are empty. Now, at which point do you consider all these as factions, as a war game? I could, but I just like making monsters. Are your Duergar former Illithid slaves? Probably not, because I don't own Illithid. So if I'm gonna publish a thing and put it up on my Patreon, I can't put Illithid in there. It has to be stuff that's in the SRD. But also, if you want to do former Illithid slaves Duergar, you can go grab the Duergar. But I think we're gonna make our own deep dwarves. So I don't know where the psionics come from, because they typically come from like outer space in D&D lore. Skarn? That. The priest summoned something into the Duergar empty brains to make them psionic. Maybe. I I don't think I like the word priest. I think that's what it is. Because even if they like commune with the weave or whatever it is, I think it has to like feel. So it might just be Duergar Scion. Is that how you spell Scion? I don't know. Oh, that's cool, Merchant. I mean, I've always wanted to go make a domain system and make armies out of these stat blocks and stuff like that. But that's not now. Shaman, no, that's like voodoo foresty. I don't know. I don't know what it would be. We can go on our old friend, the Saurus. Friar, Lama. Lama? Rector, Pontiff, Padre, Curate. No, 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 no. These are all wrong. These are all wrong. No. No. No, man. No. That's not at all what I'm saying. Maybe Scion's just gonna let me down. Exorcist. Seer? Occultist? Occultist. That one I like. Just gonna write some of these down. Actually, I'm gonna stop writing Duergar every time because we're gonna put something else there eventually. Mentalist. These are all like getting very similar, but Whisper. Frostman gives them psionics through the demonic crystals of the black ice. Yeah. I have a version of that in my setting. That's the shards of the sphere. So maybe there's more of that in the Underdark. I don't know. Oracle. Visionary. Dreadnought is awesome. Duergar Dreadnought. Is it this way? I think so. No. Like that? That might be it. Dynamite thrower. That's like that's like a job. That's just what he does. Mindbender. So we got like a crap load of scions now. What are the empties called? Maybe the dreadnought is like the best empty. I think an empty is like, I don't know. It's probably a bad word for it. No, with a P. Not Scion SC or Scion ZI. No, with a P PSI. Vessels. Husk. Yes. Yes. Can you describe the empties? So I'm thinking there are two types of Duergar. I'm thinking something happened, like there was an event or something in their past or whatever it was, and it shattered their world or it shattered the sphere or it did something, and now the effects of that thing has launched itself into the brains of these people, and some of them have used this event to be able to grant themselves powers. They have become psionics, like they've become these sort of mental casters. Others are like low wisdom, like they do not have the caster's wherewithal. So it's sort of like in some magic settings there are people who are like born wizards and people who aren't, or like born sorcerers, people who aren't. I think it's that. I think there's like a thing at birth or something that changes them. Geode. That might be cool. Void Mind. These are great. I'm all over the screen right now. Voided, Void Mind. Conductors. Conductors I like. Void Mind. No, what did someone else say? Voided. No, I like Void Mind more. And I think then there is also just the sort of, maybe there is a fairly ordinary kind of the Drudge. Ashfiend, Hive Mind connected. So these here are going to be our empty dwarves. Or maybe they're grey dwarves. I don't know which I like more. And these are our psionic grey dwarves. Which means I might go ditch the scion off the list, because they're all psionics. So if one of them is called a scion, that's just going to be confusing. You're like, well, which scion? It would be the same as if one of these was called the empty. Now Husk I really like. I don't know about occultist. Hollows. Yeah, hollows. I think they are the empty. I just that sounds. I don't know. For some reason that tickles me. You know, Mentids and demented. Vug, small cavity in rocker vein. So my question is, what is my question? Sentry. Sentry's not bad. Sentry is also just a watcher, so maybe not. Yes, my question is, what are we going to call the dwarves? So, two questions that I'm gonna put to you. This is a non-binding poll. I am allowed to disagree. Should it be what kind of name do we give the new Duergar things? Right? Are we gonna give them a something that's like blank dwarf, like deep dwarf, gray dwarf, ash dwarf, doesn't matter, or new word, like somebody said, like a vug or a hollow or a. Do we give them a new word from scratch, or should it be just like a kind of dwarf? If new word wins, then we're gonna go pursue that, and then we might go back to blank dwarf if we don't like it. Are they related to the overworld dwarves? Yes, but like distantly. Distantly. I think, it's been millennia. I don't know that it's been millennia and a cataclysm. Blank dwarf reads as a subspecies. New word is what they call themselves. I like that. Is Hierophant too religious? Yes, but it's also like specifically Egyptian to me. Do both. I don't dislike doing both. Even if we do both, we're sort of avoiding answering the question. I'm only putting one name on the stat block. So if you feel like it should be both, which one goes on the stat block? That's the question. Does the stat block say Deep Dwarf Husk, or does it say Sklorgle Husk? I got AB to laugh. That's always good. It's like elves and trolls being distant relatives. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. All right, we got 40 votes. 60% say new word. New word on the stat block. All right, let's do it. What do we call it? Because it's got to be something good. What's the Icelandic word for husk? Ugh. I don't know. It's such a specific one. Heath, hooth, dwararo. Dwararo. Jonathan. Dwararo. Delvug. I don't know. Dwarf. See, now there is a cheat that we can do. Is that I just said that Duergar is a sort of bastardization of an Icelandic word for dwarves. We could just call them Dverg, Dvergur, which would sort of get us in the same vicinity. We could go Dverg or Dvergur. Because if we go for the Icelandic one, then we've got it. I mean, a lot of people are going to have a stroke looking at six consonants, five consonants in six in a six-letter word. Because if we do that, then we could also with our elves, we could just go Alvar or Alvar. Because we can also add in a Verkur. But if it's too Icelandic, then I start to think it's silly. So if it's just Dvergur like this way with a U in there, I'm like that is just the Icelandic word for a person with dwarfism. So I don't know about that. So I might just go Dverg. It's the V a half vowel. It's pronounced as V. So it's got a bit of voice in it, but not a lot. Dvergkusk, Dvergvessel, Dverggeode. It does feel similar to Duergar, but it is our answer. Oh no, no, Grant, no. The unmade. No, if it goes too far away from being obviously dwarves, Llama Man, it'll sort of feel like it'll be difficult for someone to clock it at a glance. Like if you just open it up and you're like, what is this thing Daði has just posted here? Or what is this thing my DM is using? And you go, these are the unmade. They look and sound and act like dwarves. You're fine, Grant. Mm-mm. Nope, no Muffin Bond. It would be as if you suggested that we call this monster Darks. AB, chat says we should call the new deep dwarves Dökkir.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. Color? Monochrome. I think shades of white to black, but all monochrome. I think they don't have color. They are the Harkonnen from the Dune movie. That's what they are. When you go to their planet in Harkonnen world. Yes. I think this is what they look like. I think this is what we're talking about. Deepkin Dwark. Dwarkonen. That's funny. So, you guys want to do a poll? We can do a poll on this. We've gone ridiculous in chat. Homer. Mm. See, it's very difficult to convince me that an Icelandic word is the way to go unless it's an Icelander suggesting it, because depending on what you pick, it can just sound like a language a kid would use. And for Icelandic fantasy, it's typically like older sounding words work better because we have the Icelandic sagas, and they're all really, really, really old. So the if you pick something that is modern lingo for a fantasy name in Iceland or fantasy word in Icelandic, it just sounds like kids playing make believe in a way that isn't evocative in the same way. Uh, just because of our relationship to that kind of writing is that we read that kind of writing when we're very young in the Icelandic sagas, and it comes off as like ancient because it's difficult. It's difficult to read. Yeah, Dverg's kicking ass. All right, we're doing that. We're doing that. So here we've got a little list. A little bit of a list. Um. I mean, this is probably too many, but a good way to find out how many we actually want is for us to start ascribing CR to these things. And sometimes that's just a gut feeling, but that drudge, the sort of default Duergar, is CR1. So maybe drudge is the wrong name for it. We're gonna go in here. I like Drow. That's just ghost. But nah. Again, like if you're suggesting Icelandic names to me, you may as well just like slam the keyboard because it's depending on what you pick, you are hitting my funny bone in a very odd way. So it's not gonna like I can't play God of War without just cackling because every spell in that game that Freya casts is just a normal word. Like at one point, she walks over and waves her hand and says "house," and then a house appears. And I can't with this. This is goofy as hell. Are husk and vessel the same type of thing? Are they both needed? Probably not. See, because I think this dude here is our default sort of dverg. And if if this is CR1, now we can go and make lower CR versions. We can go make a husk. I like husk more than vessel. And we could say that one is probably about CR1 half. Right? Nothing wrong with that. In her defense, fireball is a ball of fire. That's true. That's true. But I'm Icelandic. I only ever hear the word heimili in the context of people are struggling to buy one. So she goes, heimili. I'm like, okay. All right. Whatever. Also called Grey Dwarves. They're monochrome. I'm going to put this stuff on screen because I just saw somebody join here and got excited about psionics. And I should try and make sure we have what we figured out on here. So does that make sense? CR1 half, CR1. I'm not going to do Voided. I think I like Void Mind more, but I'm also wondering, is Void Mind just a different word for the husk? Or is that something... No, that's something messed up. Somebody has, like, put more nothing into their head. Yeah, should it be CR half or CR quarter? I don't know. Grant, these are going to be just sort of a modular pack of monsters. I used to make a bunch of monsters. I haven't for ages. I kind of miss it. Well, I still have. Like, they're in the broadsheets and they're in Fungal Queen. But there isn't, like, a pack of here are all my monsters. I don't like pale dwarves. I said earlier, it implies they're all pale, which I don't think they are. They could emanate null, disrupting casters. Yeah, I think that's cool. I think these guys are probably fairly tough. I think both the Geode and the Void Mind are probably around the same sort of space. And the Geode's more tanky and the Void Mind's like anti-mage. And neither of them are good at it for any reason. I'm going to remove the conductor. God, I like the conductors, though. I keep coming... Conductor with the at the end makes it sound to me like somebody running a train. I don't know, conduct? Maybe. I think the Dreadnought, I want to be like fucking CR 12. Whoa. Maybe the Void Mind's then higher. Maybe it's like 6. And this one's sort of closer to, you know, whatever. These numbers are very flexible. I do this list and I sort of try and if at what I think they are. Conduits. Yeah. Conduit. And then once I start designing the monster, it usually ends up that I come up with an ability, and that ability is going to decide how tough they actually have to be, because it's like, if they have this ability, they have to be able to do this or that. I kind of want just like 3 stages of regular Vedic as well, regular Grey Dwarves, who are just going to be like 1, 5, 10. And they might just be, because there's like a Stone Guard and like a Warlord, I think, in the other one, in 5e. I don't know about those specific types. Because I really like the idea of like, because they can go invisible. So there is this kind of secret police thing with the whole Duergar. And I like the idea of transporting that over. I don't know what to call the secret police stat block, but that would be sort of a version of that. And then somehow something about the lash. You know, Lash Lord. I hate that. What the? There we go. I hate that, but something like that for the... And then we're going to have 3 types. We're just going to have sort of a not messed up version. Whoa! Hey, Musk. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that and the support. Thank you. Is it not conductor, or did you mean it to be conduit? We changed it. Stasi. What's the difference between the regulars and the empties? I think the empties are somehow... They're They're victims of stuff the Scions have done to them. Are you keeping the enlarged thing? I think so. Maybe not for these guys? Maybe. Maybe they're just on all of them. Kajutan, I'm not going to get into the orcs right now. I will eventually make my own orcs, and I will change parts of them. I've already done a version of the orc, the 5.5 orc for Fungal Queen, and it's in there. And eventually I'll do a whole package for it, but I can't get sidetracked. Observer. Yes. Mindbender. Did somebody say Mindbreaker? Mind Crusher. I had a Mindbreaker as a part of an Orthon thing, so I might just change him to Mindbreaker. Here is the Mindbreaker. So what is the... Inquisitor. Maybe that's this top guy. That might be it. And I think the Visionary is then probably like at the top, right? So that's another one of those kind of high CR. Because the Sentry could also be a part of this sort of fairly regular prop. Whoa. And then I don't know that we need all these guys, obviously. 1, 2, 3. So this is already 5, 10. It's 14. How do you turn them into links? Square bracket, square bracket. So word, then I go square bracket, and now it's link. If you're unfamiliar with what this software is, and you would like to know more, you can check out the videos I've done on Obsidian. I've done 2 of them. The first one explains what Obsidian is and how I use it, and the second one explains how I get it to look like this. Incredible. Mentalist. Is Mentalist sort of our standard kind of caster? So that'll be around CR6-ish. Which means I probably want the Void Mind to be tougher. And then something about the Occultist. I don't know. I don't know if Occultist is the thing I want anymore. So maybe we make the Mindbreakers be lower CR. I don't know. I don't know. Hell yeah. Mentalist, Seer. We're going to figure these out. I don't like Occultist. I think I'm going to save that. I like the word Occultist. I think I'm going to save it for whenever I need casters for a more, like a group of monsters where I think that is going to fit more into like sort of devil worshipping or extra planner or something. Mind Soother. I don't think we've already got Mindbreaker. I don't think we really benefit from having many Dverg Mind something. That would end up just confusing me, if nothing else. I think then I want a different word for seer, and I'm going to make them... So I'm going to make whatever this guy is. I don't know yet, but I think that's sort of going to be our main caster one. And the Mentalist is kind of a lower CR caster. Now, these numbers are not final. I don't know what they are yet. Stone Speaker. Sounds like a druid. Mind Picker. No, I don't want to repeat mind. Thought Reaver. Ideally, we get it down to one word or like a compound word. Do they get blind sight? No, I think they just get like crazy long dark vision. Zealot, that's very priesty. Manipulator. Manipulator. I like that. It's gross. I like it. Oh, it's all M's. Now that's gonna bug me. Controller. Herald. Controller. Appraiser. Obfuscant. Alright, I think we got a good lineup. I'm probably not going to end up doing all of these. I might end up dropping one of them. But I think this is sort of a lineup of a whole kind of cast of interesting deep dwarves. Dark dwarves. Now, what to do about the not drow? Because I also want to make not drow. Not drow. Because somebody said the Cobalt Press has like all kinds of bugs. I think that's cool. I like my spiders. In fact, I've already made my drow use the like spider steed, spider mutt. And I wonder, are the drow, are they SRD? I don't know. I actually have no idea. There is a mention of drow. Yes, there is. Because they're in the lineages. So maybe we do just call them drow. But I think drow carries with them a whole sort of bit of baggage. I'm actually curious. What do we do in Fungal Queen? Are there drow in there? Because there's a drider. I don't know if there are drow. It surprised me to learn that I do say drow. Hang on. Oh. Old Iron, Spider Steeds, Spider Mutts. I don't think I... Yeah, there is a Drider, and I will probably have to include that in this package, but I don't know... Nope, no mention of Drow, so I don't have to call him Drow. Ha 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 ha. Dökkalvar, they might be Svartalvar, which is actually in Norse mythology. The Underelves. The Eldrin. I could, like... So here's the philosophy on elves, because there's the Elder Scrolls ways where they go, there are high elves, wood elves, dark elves, I think they're called, and then they also have fancy elf names for what they call themselves. Have you heard of the High Elves? Yeah, the Altmer. Yes, like the Altmeri Dominion. And then there are the others. I don't remember what they are, top of my head. And I can't open that website apparently. The Mer, Altmer, Bosmer, and Dunmer. That's right. Deep Elves. I think Deep Elves is perfectly fine. I like the idea that what we did with the our Duergar replacement, our new our Duergar, is that we've got a word they call themselves, the Daði, and then we can also call them Grey Dwarves. And I like the idea of doing a word and then also called Deep Elves. Maybe they're also Grey Elves. Maybe they are both the Grey. I don't know. Yeah, they're all. Yeah. Chat's educating me on Elder Scrolls. Yeah, they're all elves. Whether it's dwarves or orcs, they're all elves in that setting. Olvar? I don't know. It might just be Svartalvar, but it's 3 syllables. Dverg is 1. It doesn't have to be 1 syllable. 2 syllables is perfectly fine. Sunless elves. That's cool. That again, it reminds me of Night Below, where there's the Sunless Sea. Svartalf. That one I do like more. Maybe it is just going the Icelandic by for absolutely no reason at all. That is funny to me. The Moonless Elves. Yes, Mergen, yes, I understand. I was exaggerating. Hello, welcome to the show, Rainmaker. Svalf. Core Elves? Lutin. Lutinate. So I kind of feel like if we come up with a word for them. So here's my logic. I don't mind the Icelandic word for the dwarves because that just kind of fits. Icelandic is a guttural sort of language. It sounds very different, and it would kind of fit with what I'd done in my setting. The like in the giants in my setting and all those, they all speak. They all like Icelandic is or Norse is sort of their root language, and that's what I used to get inspired for giant characters, giant kin. So calling them Alvar or Elf or any of those things feels to me like what the giants and the dwarves would call them, and not what the elves would call themselves. Because in Orathon, the elves have, their places are called Thalanil and Mithalen, which is very sort of typical elven. Sunforsaken. The Spider Rider Dark Residers. Hell yeah. No, no, I don't think going Icelandic is actually the way to go with the Dark Elves, because in that case, I feel like I'm betraying. Like, I don't know why the elves and the dwarves would have the same root language for this, unless I'm deciding that they're both just undercommon. But then I'm also saying undercommon is Icelandic, and for some reason, suddenly my funny bone gets stripped. Don't know why. Can't explain it. Can't explain it. So I'm not gonna. Maybe I just need to not get too hung up on the name right now. I know I have made a stat block for a serf, a drow serf, and a blade maiden. Cause in Forgotten Realms lore, they are uh mat- matron matronymic, matriarchal. So I like the idea of going and like explicitly sort of feminizing the stat blocks, but maybe that's not the way to go in case you're playing or you want to use these drow for non-matriarchal societies. What is the deal with the drow in Orthon? I don't know, because in my setting so far, I've just been using Benzobranson and Lolth and drow, and I think it's perfectly fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I want to make my own cadre of stat blocks, and I kind of like the idea of detaching myself from it a little bit. But then maybe not. Maybe I don't. I don't know. I don't know. I like the idea of the spider magic. I like the idea of the cloakers. That's played a big part in my campaign so far. There's like a cloaker battalion, but I think that's just official lore. Creating names without context is like feeling around on a shore for a particular riverstone in the dark. Well, yes, but I think also thinking about names is a decent way for me to decide what I don't like. Because at a certain point, I'm like, I don't know what I want. I don't know what excites me about them. I haven't found it yet, and I didn't find it with the Duergar until just now. The fact that they were empties, I like that idea. I think that's something I can go work with. I can go create stat blocks for. I can go create lore for. Seems rather pointless to deprive yourself of all the already present Lolth and Drow lore. Well, I mean, no, I like making stuff. I don't know why we need to forbid me because something exists. But maybe I just don't know what I want out of this yet. That's a different question, right? Because starting with why spiders, though, may help you track down the answer. That's true. That is true. That is very true indeed. Hey, BotBot. Welcome to the show. How far do I want them to be removed? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what is exciting about deep elves. I think let's go on a more basic level. What is exciting about the elves in the ground? Because the thing that rockseers can do is they can walk through walls. All rockseers can cast melt into stone. Mod Hunter. Lots of the early drow lore is worth burning. I agree. I like the poison. I like the matriarchal society. I like the Menzo Branson sort of looking down on things. I like the feudal like society taking to an extreme. And I especially like challenging my male characters at the table with it. I had a great time with them whenever the important PCs who are typically played by the male players who are playing male characters, and they go to parliament and they go do all these things, and then they go, I will negotiate with the drow, and the drow go, no. uh I love that. uh I like the Drider fine. I like the spider vibe. I think the coolest drow I've seen is the drow arachnomancer. I think it's I think it's really gross. Look at this. Ugh. Ugh. I think that's neat. Um, I think sort of I think the feudalism taken to extreme, I think is fascinating, especially from like a different angle. At the moment, I can't say that I know what I want to do with it. Maybe that's just got to lie fallow for a bit. I don't know. I've got a bunch of these monsters that I want to do. I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of stuck on the drow at the moment, but I know that I'm doing orcs. I've got an orc, a new orc thug, and I've made an orc society that I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with, and I'm going to use for it, which is it's one of the good guy nations in my setting, and they have been sort of in this perpetual war against this villain, and the Red Fang Wings is the name of their bat riders. And what else? They had like siege weapons and artillery and things, and like all of that I think I can bring in. I think it's very exciting. So at the moment I think I'm just confused on what I want to do with the drow. What do I want to do with the drow? Fungal elves. I think mixing together the rock seers and the drow is sort of what I'm excited about. What's the fantasy, says Grant? Yeah, strong societal structure. They're willful. Spiders make webs, wait patiently for prey. I think like the spy aspect of it, I think is fascinating. Like a whole society of spies and intrigue, I think is fascinating. What? Go ahead. Why did the drow have to fit in the same format? What if most of the drow are extinct and you only have a handful of single city of survivors? Yeah, I don't know. I think what I'm discovering is that I don't have an opinion, which is bad. Sometimes I start making something just because I like the idea of making something, and then I discover I don't have a take. The amount of scripts that I've started writing for YouTube videos, and I get a decent chunk into them. I have one called Making NPCs Matter, and I've written a paragraph for it about a year ago. And I have never, I did that one paragraph about raison d'etre, and that's it. And I open it every now and again, and I try and think if there's anything else to say. What what should I say? And I don't know. Are you familiar with 40k? Not enough to be conversational in its lore, but I know what it is, and I know what the factions are. Infiltration, tricks, illusion, magic, pulling strings. Yep. Complex city. Yep. Firebinder drow. No. Because the more I think about it, the more I think I'm basically just updating the drow. And that doesn't seem like a thing that I'm excited about doing. So are you changing the drow or crafting new? I don't know. I don't know. Guys, I'm stumped. I'm genuinely stumped. I came in here, I was like, we're going to do the drow, we're going to do the Duergar. And we got such a good roll with the Duergar. Illusion magic. Illusion magic. Yep. Like, I had liked the idea that there were like these great houses I think there are great houses in Menzo lore. I don't remember. But I like the idea that there were these great houses, and it would sort of function like, and this is going to make sense to at least Grant in chat, but they would sort of function like capital, where each of the factions of the city have a thing that they are in charge of. So this Drow house is in charge of the mines. This Drow house is in charge of the food crops here in the Underdark. This Drow house is in charge of, and so on and so on and so on. I could make X houses and X Drow per house, or just go, here are some of the basic ones, and then here's one per house. That could be cool. So I could go, here's a Drow Serf, a Drow Blade Maiden, maybe a handful of those, and then go, this house, this house, this house, this house. That might be exciting. And then the fun part for me is getting to make the houses. Where did the deep gnomes come into this? We will do deep gnomes. I think we're gonna do deep gnomes and kobolds as a pack. So we've already done the kobolds. So I think the deep gnomes. We could also do the deep gnomes if I've got juice in me. The Drouses. Lore, Stronghook Fantasy. Yeah, I like the idea of the scheming houses. Because that is sort of inherent to Menzo Branson, but I don't see it in their stat blocks. It's just like there are houses. I just got a notification that I lost OBS Studio. Did the live stream go down? Did we lose the stream? Oh, it seems we're still on. Oh, his internet or mine? Cut out for a few seconds. Uh-oh. I buffered. All right, cool. We're back. We're back, everybody. How are you? Drow Surf. Drow Blade Maiden. I want a Drow Spy, and I think it's going to be the Shadow Mount. Yeah, and then I get to decide who the Kanafi are. That's right. Drow, and then there's a Drow Caster of some kind. And there's a Drow Warlord of some kind. And then there's a Drow Man. Not as important as the rest. And then there is the... I'm going to have to go find my lore for what these guys are. I don't remember what the types of houses there were. The mining house. They do the mining. Farming house. They do the farming. Spider house. They do the spiders. Military. Cloakers. Religion. Magic. This might be it. Nightweaver. That sounds cool. Oh, I don't like to mention night, though. Yeah, maybe that's just what it is. Hang on. That was me. Audio's gone? It sounds like it's still up on my end. I'm confused. Thread spinner, shade. Nightweaver. Everyone's suggesting Nightweaver. Alright. Audio and video are out of sync? I don't know what's up anymore. We can, I'll put in a Nightweaver thread spinner. Thread spinner. So I know the cloakers are like airborne attackers. I know the military house are like melee experts. This is cavalry or hounds. I don't know that there's a special stat block for the farming house. I don't know that that's interesting. Same with these guys. I think there is a priest. I think there's a caster. So maybe I don't need a caster here. Beaver. Something like this. And then we're doing CR quarter. I think the Blade Maiden is CR5. I think the Shadowman is about CR7. We're going to want a decently high level Warlord, probably the 10. Oh, and we're going to want a Matriarch. Yes. Poison House. I like that. I don't know what makes them special. I'm going to write an AoE. Ooh, information brokers. Well, these are good, Grant. These are good work. Can we get a house ability package to add to the named characters who are basic stat blocks? You know, I'll put it on as a stretch goal. I don't dislike it. Poison is a lot like spiders. Maybe. Maybe. Toxicologist. Well, toxins, AoE, something like that. Which one of these guys have the purple worm riders? Well, purple worm riders. Actually, those will be the miners. Magnus remembers fighting those purple worm riders. Those stat blocks are, I think they're like CR. They're like CR ludicrous high, and they're all like House Carl, and it's just the art is just like a dude in a like a couple of leather straps and not much else. You're welcome, Llama Man. Thank you so much. Bum 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 bum. Spectacular. I think the farming house is going to be a lot of interns. House of Leather and Garments. Mwah. Purple Worm Riders, Cavalry and Hounds. Yeah, I like this. And then we're going to add to it a Spider Queen stat block and a Drider stat block just for our own enjoyment. And we could do something similar with the Duergar. I think a mount of some kind would be fun. Yep. Yeah, the farms are definitely fungal based. Absolutely. In that case, we're just going to remove the whole entrant thing. I mean, I assume that's just a lot of drows in general. Those are just going to be commoners. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think each of these is probably like about a CR 8-ish stat block, something like that. Maybe lower. Maybe like 5, 6, 8. I don't know. And then the Drow consort is going to get to be CR like high, and the matriarch is going to be CR like high as well. And then we're going to do if I can CR 30 something. I think that's going to work. Duergar King. I think they're all probably slavers. Probably. I don't know about a Duergar King. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. I typically don't think of my Duergar as having an active god. I think of them as like a heathen species, of which I have many. Let's do one more real quick. And let's do the deep gnomes. New note. Deep gnomes. Because I think they're actually like gem gnomes. I don't think of my deep gnomes as being like the Svirfneblin. And I know that they live in a city of jewels and gems in a plane of earth. So I don't know. He doesn't need to hold real power. That's a good point. We can make a Duergar King or big mind dragon. Could do something like that. But with the deep gnomes, I know they're inventors. I know that the deep gnomes are jewel-based, gem-based artificers. They make machines like mechs and magic, and they summon elementals, and they do it all through like crushing gems. That's what I know about my deep gnomes. That's about all I know about my deep gnomes, but that is sort of what I've got. So that means that obviously there is a like a summoner and a mech suit one. I don't know what to call them. Duergar hive mind, like an elder brain for the Duergar. That's not bad. I'll stick it on the list. Hey, you're welcome, Crow, and thank you for the support. Thank you so much. Bombardier, tunnelers. Oh, like a Fusilier? Yeah, that's fun. What about the Arquebus? Because that's a historical gun, but it also sounds like a magic gun. Gem Golem. Now we're on a roll. Instead of getting stuck on the Drow, we should just do the fun ones, right? So this one's probably sort of here on the lower end somewhere. Arquebus, Bombardier. And the Gem Golem's like an extra. It's not a part of the whole thing. I know there is a Queen of Rubies who is in charge. Gem Dragons? Oof. Oof, that's a whole other... I feel like everyone's done Gem Dragons. You should call gem mechs lattices. Why? Can you explain to me why that's cool? I'm sure it is, I just don't get it. Mecha Striders. Gnomes on Robot Ostrich. I like the idea of Striders. I don't think they're terribly high CR either. I think the Tunneler is fairly low. I think the Arquebus one is going to have to be high just because it's like a half, because it's a gun. Then you're going to have your 1 or 2. The Summoner is going to go hard. And so is the Mecha Suit. What are the golems at? They're like a 7 or 9 we could add. This is a live show. Correct. These are 7. I'd love to get one more. Something in this range here. Maybe just like an inventor. Tinkerer. Something like that. Bends light through gems for lasers. Yeah. Ooh, should we do like a Jedi? uh a laser knight? Like that. A lattice is a formation of atoms that makes up a crystal, so it already has the idea of complex structure. To me, lattice sounds like a weave. It sounds like a fabric. Will the guns be like beams or like gemstone bullets? I think they're like laser beams. They go pew pew. Or maybe they're gemstone bullets. I don't know. A luminary. That's a good word for this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's a pretty good spread. And I'll have to find out what to call them. Pew pew. Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Bonus deep gnomes. Look at that. I think that's it. I think we've done a pretty good job here, folks. We've got the deep gnomes, the not drow, the yet to be named not drow. We've got the Dwarg, which I do like. I like the lore of those guys. Gem Titan, sure, why not? We'll add a Gem Titan. I do like adding like one really high CR at the back. I think it's a pretty good layup here of these things. Plenty for me to sort of take the plunge and run with it. It can't be over yet, but I think it is. Is there a sort of Underdark group that you want us to quickly see if we can get through done? We might be able to get one done. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, here we go. What program am I using to write this stuff? This is Obsidian. I've done 2 videos about it. This one about what it is and why I like it, and this one about the particular version and the vault I'm using now. Hell yeah. Stone Giants, Orcs. We're going to do Orcs eventually, but not as part of this. We will do another one of these streams where we're going to go through Orcs and Elves and Dwarves for the above ground. And I walked into an ad read. I'm not sponsored. I just like it. People ask me every stream. They ask me multiple times. Desperado plays games. Trogs, Darrow. I thought about Darrow. Koatoa? Maybe. See, I thought about both Darrow and Koatoa. Both of them are not SRD. Or neither of them, I should say, is SRD. So we would have to invent our own kind of idea for it. And I don't have one at the moment, but I might come up with one. Next time we do this stream, we're going to do Orcs, Humans, and Elves and Dwarves. Maybe not Humans. We'll see. I like the idea of default human stat blocks. Maybe for different parts of my setting. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to do just one thing with a whole bunch of nations of humans. But I know that I'm doing Dwarves, Elves, and Orcs. I've been on my way to do that for ages, and I've got some ideas for it. So I think all that's coming up next in the live streams. We'll be doing a whole bunch of these sort of monster live streams going forward. And I believe that's it for now. So what do I say? How does this go? Ah, yes. You have been watching
Daði the Dungeon Guy.
Daði the Dungeon Guy.
Daði the Dungeon Guy.
Subscribe to D&D rules.
Daði the Dungeon Guy.
Welcome back to Smash.
Clearly
Pass.
agile, sneaky, intelligent, powerful. I'm on the bed already.
T-minus 5 seconds.
Daði the Dungeon Guy.
And that's where we're going to pick it up next time. Thanks so much for watching this video. This channel is run by me and my girlfriend. If you want to support us directly, come check out our Patreon. It's the best way to support the channel. We've got multiple different tiers, one of which, the Adept tier, lets you pick up all the kinds of monsters we make. We have in the past done Lizardfolk and Sahuagin, Kobolds, and Goblins, and pretty soon we'll be adding these monsters to that cadre, along with everything else we do, both the Broadsheets, which is a digital magazine for my campaign setting of Atroxia, and you've also got my Hexploration rules and everything else you'd possibly want on there. But that is going to be where we pick it up next time. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe if you're feeling especially generous. And until next time,